I'm flying to the Maldives to comfort my grieving close partner. He's feeling down, but I know exactly how to cheer him up, she said, slipping her diamond bracelet on like she was going out for cocktails. Her lips were painted in blood-red arrogance, her suitcase already by the door. Say a single word to the kids and you'll regret it. I stood there, numb. My wife, Amanda. The woman I gave 10 years, 2 kids, a mortgage, and the deepest kind of trust you don't ever think will be broken. And here she was, speaking to me like I was some stranger on the street, cold, distant, venomous. That line she dropped? It wasn't a slip-up. It was a nuke dropped straight into the core of my chest. She didn't even flinch. The partner, she mentioned? That wasn't a friend. That was Daniel Fisher, her co-worker at the ad agency. The guy I used to grill steaks with every other Saturday. The guy who patted my shoulder when I had COVID and dropped off soup. A soft-spoken, clean-shaven wolf in Patagonia fleece. Apparently, she'd been comforting him for months. I didn't say a word. Not out of fear. No. I was calculating. Because right then, something inside me snapped, but it didn't bleed. It sharpened. I wasn't going to fight for her. I was going to bury her quietly, strategically, with the same cold edge she just showed me. She kissed our daughter Ava on the forehead, told our son Blake to be good for daddy, and walked out like it was just another trip. I watched the Uber's taillights disappear, then closed the door, walked to the kitchen, and poured myself a glass of scotch at 11 a.m. I wasn't drunk. I was reborn. My hands were shaking, but not from grief. No, it was the weight of restraint. I wanted to scream, smash something, but I didn't. I opened my laptop and started pulling files. Photos. GPS history. Old texts. You see, Amanda never really deleted things. She just hid them in folders with innocent names like Summer Budget and Kids Docs. And there it was. A photo album. Titled Palm Trees and Fireflies. The Maldives wasn't their first trip. There were snapshots of her in silk robes on a hotel balcony, kissing Daniel with her wedding ring still on. A voice note. You make me feel alive, not like deadbeat Mark who just sulks around the house like an old dog. That's me, Mark. The deadbeat. I listened to the note 5 times. Each time, my anger grew colder. Not hotter, colder. And that's the worst kind of fury. The quiet kind. The kind that plans things. That evening, I made dinner for the kids like everything was normal. Chicken pasta and garlic bread. Blake asked where Mommy went. I said, she's helping someone who's very sad. Which, technically, wasn't a lie. Amanda was helping someone with his sadness by probably climbing into his hotel bed and playing therapist without a license. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat in my study, opened a blank page, and wrote down one sentence. Make her regret ever touching him. I hired someone the next day. No, not that kind of someone. A guy named Julian, private investigator. My friend Marcus from college works corporate fraud cases, and he owed me a favor. Julian had Amanda's flight info tracked within 48 hours, plus Daniel's full financial records, his wife's name. Yes, he was married too, and their company's HR complaint history. Guess what? Amanda and Daniel weren't just sneaking around. They were plotting something bigger, moving money, setting up a side business in his name, and worst of all, drafting fake narratives about me being emotionally unstable and unfit for full custody. I laughed. Unfit? I built that house. I packed Ava's lunches, braided her hair, did night shifts when Amanda said she had client dinners. And here she was, gearing up to make me look like the bad guy while she cheated her way to tropical orgasms and beachfront mimosas. That was the moment I decided I wasn't going to confront her when she came back. Oh no, I was going to wait. Make her comfortable. Let her lie straight to my face again. Watch her play the loving mother. Then, when she least expected it, the hammer would drop. I started leaving breadcrumbs for her. Subtle ones. Like asking how the conference went. Mentioning that I saw Daniel's wife at Whole Foods. Bringing up HR policies. Each time, she blinked. Just once. Like a glitch in her matrix. But she kept lying. That was Amanda. She didn't panic. She improvised. You're so controlling, Mark, she said one night, sipping wine. You're always suspicious. Suspicious? I had videos. Voice memos. Bank statements. She thought I was guessing. I was building a case. And I wasn't alone. Daniel's wife, Emma, had just joined my silent little war. She found out 2 weeks after I did. Called me in the middle of the night crying. She destroyed my family, Mark. Whatever you're planning. I want in. We made a pact that night. Quiet revenge. Legal. Clean. Ruthless. And Amanda? She had no idea. She was still in the Maldives, grieving. But soon, she'd be the one left shattered. Amanda returned from the Maldives with a tan, a new designer bag, and the kind of smug glow that only comes from getting away with something filthy. She wore it like perfume, sweet, intoxicating, and dangerous. She breezed through the door like nothing had changed. Like she hadn't just betrayed our entire family and handed me the quiet knife of humiliation to hold between my ribs. "Hey, kids. I missed you so much," she said, bending down with open arms. Ava ran to her. Blake hesitated. "My son's only 6, but kids sense things. They feel lies in the spaces adults think are invisible." "And me?" I watched her from across the kitchen. She smiled at me like she was doing me a favor just by walking back into the house. I smiled back. She didn't notice the twitch in my jaw. Or maybe she did and just didn't care. That night, while she unpacked her bags, I went into the garage and sat in my car, hands gripping the wheel like it was the only thing keeping me from detonating. My phone buzzed. It was a text from Emma, Daniel's wife. "Emma, found another email. She called you a pet project with zero ambition. Want me to forward it?" I didn't reply. I didn't need more proof. I had enough to ruin Amanda 6 different ways. But I wasn't interested in chaos. I wanted precision. She burned the bridge. I was building a catapult. Over the next few days, Amanda pretended to slot herself back into the rhythm of our family. She made waffles. She lit candles during dinner. She laughed a little too loud. Her eyes flicked toward me at every quiet moment, measuring how much I knew or thought I knew. One evening, I brought up Daniel. "Hey, didn't you say your partner from work was going through a tough time? That Daniel guy? Everything okay now?" She paused. It was just a second. Just a flicker. But I saw it. She looked up from her phone and smiled. "Oh, yeah, he's okay. Just family stuff. Messy. Poor guy." Lie. That same day, Julian had sent me photos from the Maldives, her and Daniel, wrapped in each other like high school sweethearts. One of them was taken on the exact day she'd texted me. "Miss you and the kids, babe. Can't wait to come home." She had sent that message from a beach chair, Daniel's hand clearly wrapped around her thigh. Disgust doesn't even begin to describe it. But I kept playing the role. The clueless husband. The tired man grateful to have his wife back. Because every performance needs a finale. And mine was coming. 2 nights later, Emma and I met in person for the first time. A quiet coffee shop 2 towns over. She looked like she hadn't slept in weeks, dark circles, trembling hands, fury simmering just under the surface. She left her scarf in his car, Emma whispered. "The one I gave her for Christmas. Bold, right?" I nodded. "She doesn't even feel bad," I said. "Not for a second." "Nope," Emma replied. I thought I was the crazy one. Turns out, I was just too sane for both of them. We shared everything. Timelines, emails, voice messages. And when we aligned them all, a pattern appeared. Amanda and Daniel had been plotting since January. That weekend conference in Denver? A lie. The girls' night in Napa? Another lie. Even our anniversary weekend, she left early to visit her mom. Turns out, she was visiting Daniel at a spa resort. They weren't just cheating. They were erasing us. And I was done playing nice. That night, I started preparing the files for the lawyer. Custody plans. Asset divisions. Full documentation of her adultery. I was going to rip the mask right off her in broad daylight. But I wasn't going to just leave her. No. She wanted to live like a character in some steamy novel? I'd give her a plot twist she'd never forget. She thought she'd broken me. She had no idea. I was just getting started. 3 days after our meeting at the coffee shop, I decided it was time to turn up the heat. Not by exploding. Not yet. That would be too easy and too satisfying for Amanda. No, what I had in mind was something far more surgical. So I planned dinner. I cooked her favorite, garlic rosemary lamb, roasted fingerlings, and a red wine we'd been saving since our 5th anniversary. She came home from Pilates, or at least what she claimed was Pilates, and looked surprised. Not guilty. Just surprised, like she thought I'd finally accepted my role as the grateful little puppy licking her heels. "What's the occasion?" she asked, kicking off her heels. I smiled. You've been working so hard. I figured we deserved a night just for us." Amanda tilted her head, calculating. But then she shrugged, walked into the bedroom, and changed into that emerald dress, the one I bought her in New Orleans, back when I still believed every lie was a mistake, not a weapon. Dinner started like any normal night would. Music playing low. Candles flickering. her sipping wine like she wasn't hiding corpses in the closet. I watched her across the table, wondering how long someone can lie before they forget who they ever were. Halfway through the meal, I brought up Daniel again. So, has Daniel been back in the office? Just curious. She blinked. That flicker again. He's on leave, she said casually, chewing slowly. Still dealing with that family crisis. Poor guy. Must be hard. All that grief, I said, my tone as smooth as the wine sliding down my throat. You two seem close. She set her fork down and narrowed her eyes. What's with the questions, Mark? Here it came. I met her gaze. Just making conversation. After all, you flew across the world for him. Must mean something. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. I told you, I went to help him through a tough time. That's the kind of person I am. You used to admire that. I almost laughed. Admire? She used to hide her phone when she showered. Switch passwords like she was guarding state secrets. She once got angry because I asked why she came home at 2 a.m. from a team-building dinner. And now she wanted me to believe she was just being kind? I let her finish the meal. Let her enjoy the last peaceful evening she'd ever have in that house. After dessert, I handed her an envelope. What's this? She asked, cautiously. Something you'll want to read alone, I said, standing up. Don't worry. No yelling. No fighting. Just information. She opened it. Inside were 10 pages of printed emails, screenshots, photographs, and a transcribed voicemail, the one where she told Daniel, if Mark ever finds out, I'll just say he's been emotionally abusive. I've been rehearsing it. He's too quiet. People will believe it. I watched the color drain from her face. She looked up at me, lips parted, trying to form words that wouldn't sound like rope. Where did you get these? She finally asked. I have my ways, I said. Turns out, people don't like being cheated on and lied to. Who knew? She stood up, pacing. You're overreacting. There it was. The classic Amanda pivot, denial, deflection, attack. I can explain. No, I cut her off, voice steady. You could have explained. Months ago. When I asked. When I begged you to be honest. When I felt something was off. But you lied. And now? I'm not here for explanations. I'm here to inform you. This is over. Her mouth opened again, but I walked out of the room. And as I did, I heard her mutter behind me. You'll regret this. That was the moment I knew she still didn't get it. She thought she was in control. She had no idea the storm she'd just unleashed. Because I wasn't just ending the marriage. I was going to expose her for the fraud she was in front of her kids, her friends, her family, and her precious Daniel. Amanda thought she was untouchable. But she just handed me every weapon I needed. The next morning was quiet. Too quiet. Amanda didn't speak. She made breakfast like she hadn't been caught red-handed the night before, like she hadn't been handed a folder of her own treachery. She even buttered toast for the kids like a step-forward wife on autopilot. Her eyes were swollen from crying or fuming. Probably both. I played along. I poured coffee, kissed Ava's forehead, helped Blake pack his school bag. We looked like a happy family. We were a painting, one brush stroke away from ripping the canvas. When the kids left for school, Amanda finally broke the silence. So, what now? Are you going to tell them? She didn't say the kids. She didn't say their names. Just them. Like they were props in her drama. I took a long sip of coffee and looked out the window. Not yet. Her jaw clenched. You're dragging this out. You want to humiliate me. I turned to her. Amanda, I could humiliate you. But I don't need to. You've already done that yourself. She folded her arms, nails digging into her sleeves like claws. You think you're the victim here? You? You were a ghost in this house. Always quiet, always passive. I needed more. There it was. Her justification. Like boredom was a blank check to betray someone who gave her a life, a family, a home. Like I owed her fireworks every week or she had the right to detonate a bomb under our marriage. You didn't need more, I said. You just wanted different. There's a difference. She scoffed. Daniel listens. He sees me. I laughed. Of course he sees you. He doesn't live with you. He doesn't see the manipulations, the lies, the chaos. I could see the twitch in her left eye, the flicker of panic. Because deep down, she knew she wasn't some misunderstood goddess. She was a spoiled liar who thought her schemes were invisible. And now, her entire tower of lies was crumbling. I walked into my study and called Emma. We ready? Ready, she said. I just spoke to HR. Daniel's being pulled into a review meeting next week. I've got everything documented. He's cooked. Emma had been a gift from fate. Together, We had collected enough dirt to bury Daniel professionally, socially, and possibly even legally. Misappropriation of funds, falsified business trips, workplace affair violations. He wasn't just a cheater. He was reckless. Amanda walked in as I ended the call. "I know you're talking to her," she hissed. I leaned back. "You mean Daniel's wife? The one you stabbed in the back while she was raising their kids?" Amanda's eyes flared. "You don't know what you're doing." "Oh," I said with a smile, "I know exactly what I'm doing." I stood up, walked to the bookshelf, and pulled out another envelope, this one addressed to my lawyer. "You've got 1 week," I said, "to move out. I've already filed. I'm not playing house anymore. And don't bother playing the victim. I've got everything on record. Try to fight me on custody, and I'll play the voicemail where you planned it all with Daniel." She reached for the envelope, trembling. "You're making a mistake." "No," I said, stepping closer. "You did." The doorbell rang. Perfect timing. Amanda looked confused. I opened the door to reveal my brother, Jason. 6'2", ex-Marine. Not the kind of guy you argue with. "Here to help pack," he said with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Amanda blinked. "You called your brother?" "Yup. Don't want you feeling alone during this transition." And that was the beginning of her fall. Because now it wasn't just my word against hers. It was structure. Witnesses. Planning. The stage was set. She could burn, but it would be in public. And she'd light the match with her own damn hands. Amanda didn't cry. Not yet. She wasn't the type to collapse easily. That's the thing about people like her. They don't shatter. They fracture in silence, behind locked doors, and come back sharper. But this time, I had made sure the edges she used to cut others now turned inward. Jason helped her pack in silence. No insults. No yelling. Just cold air, full of history and tension. She kept glancing at me as she moved from room to room, stuffing things into suitcases she didn't even bother to zip fully. Lipsticks. Jewelry. Lingerie that had never been worn for me. Expensive shoes she once claimed were too classy for PDA meetings. "Where exactly do you want me to go?" she finally asked, standing at the front door with 2 bags and a glare that would have frozen fire. I leaned against the hallway wall. "That hotel you stayed at with Daniel still have your loyalty points?" She didn't answer. Just tightened her grip on the bags. Jason cleared his throat. "You need a ride?" "No," she snapped. "I'll call a car." Of course she would. Amanda wouldn't be caught dead in a family sedan while her world was collapsing. She still wanted to pretend she had dignity left. She walked out without looking back. But the house didn't feel lighter. Not yet. The silence that followed wasn't peace. It was weight. The kind of weight that comes when you realize your whole life was a performance and you were the only one who thought it was real. The kids asked questions later that night. Simple ones. "Where's Mommy? Is she coming back?" I kept my answers soft. Honest, but gentle. "She's going to stay somewhere else for a while." Why? Because sometimes grown-ups make mistakes that change everything. I didn't cry in front of them, but I did after they went to bed. Not because I missed Amanda, but because I missed the illusion I had believed in. Later that night, Emma sent me a video clip. Security footage from the office. Amanda and Daniel. Cornered by 2 HR reps. Daniel trying to stay calm. Amanda, arms folded, lips pressed, eyes flashing that same anger I'd seen 100 times. She thought she could intimidate her way out. She was wrong. They were both suspended pending investigation. Daniel's wife, Emma, had filed a formal complaint. A detailed one. And when Amanda tried to call me an hour later, I ignored it. No more speeches. No more fake tears. She wasn't coming back. Not in my house. Not in my heart. But that didn't mean the story was over. The next morning, I went to the bank. Amanda had opened a household emergency account 6 months ago. That's what she called it. Turns out, she'd been siphoning money into it little by little, planning her exit while pretending everything was fine. I froze the account. She texted me within the hour. "Amanda, you can't do that." Me. "I just did." "Amanda, you're destroying everything out of spite." Me. "No. You already destroyed everything. I'm just cleaning up the debris." She didn't reply. That afternoon, I met with my lawyer. We filed the final divorce motion, complete with the evidence packet and full custody request. Emma agreed to provide testimony. So did Jason. So did our nanny. Turns out, Amanda had even brought Daniel into our home once while I was on a business trip. He played board games with my kids. The rage hit me like a second heartbeat. That night, I stood in the kitchen, staring out the window with a glass of bourbon in my hand. The house was quiet. Still. I wasn't okay. But I was standing. And soon, Amanda's paper crown would fall. Because queens don't stay queens when their lies are exposed. They become lessons. And Amanda was about to become the best damn cautionary tale anyone had ever seen. 2 days after I froze the account, Amanda finally cracked. Not publicly, not yet. But in her own dramatic, chaotic way. She showed up at the house. Unannounced. Hair pulled into a sloppy bun. Sunglasses too big for her face. Wearing the same black hoodie she used to joke made her look like a grieving celebrity. Fitting. I opened the door slowly, blocking her view inside. She didn't even ask to come in. She shoved past me like she still had keys. I need my charger. And a few of my files, she said, brushing past the coat rack like she hadn't been evicted from her own life. You need to call first, I said flatly, following her to the living room. This isn't your home anymore. She spun around, lips curled. Don't do this, Mark. You don't get to act like the saint. You knew we were broken before this. I let that hang in the air for a second. Broken doesn't mean disposable, I said. You could have talked to me. Instead, you ran to a man who fakes empathy for a living. She scoffed. He's not the villain here. Oh, I agree. You are. She flinched like I'd slapped her. For the first time, her armor looked cracked. She wasn't wearing makeup, and without it, she looked tired. Worn. Real. And I didn't feel pity. I felt nothing. She sat down on the couch like she used to after work. I stayed standing. You're really going through with this? The divorce? The full custody? Absolutely. What about the kids, Mark? She asked, voice suddenly shaking. They need their mother. Then you should have thought about that before turning our home into a lie. I didn't yell. I didn't need to. My voice was steady, low, and final. She stood up again, pacing now. You know, you were never passionate. You didn't chase me. You didn't fight. I waited for you to show some damn emotion, Mark, and it never came. I looked at her like she was a stranger speaking a different language. You wanted me to chase you? After everything? Amanda, love isn't a game of cat and mouse. It's building something real. And I did. I built a life. A family. You built a performance. She froze. Her phone buzzed. She glanced at it, and her face changed. A flicker of panic. Daniel got fired, she said under her breath. His wife sent in everything. I raised an eyebrow. You didn't think that would happen? I thought he had pull. I laughed quietly. He had lies. Just like you. And now they're both unraveling. She sat back down. This time slower. Heavier. You planned this. No, I said. You handed me every tool. I just stopped protecting you. There was silence for a while. Then she whispered, I never thought you'd do this. That was the most honest thing she'd said in months. And she was right. I used to be soft. I used to bend. To compromise. But betrayal is a crucible. It burns the weak out of you. What's left is something cleaner, sharper. She left without her charger or her files. She left like a shadow that had finally realized the sun wasn't coming back. Later that evening, I got an email from Emma. Subject line, victory tastes better when it's shared. Daniel had been terminated. Amanda's name was being reviewed in connection with fraudulent reimbursements. HR was preparing statements. And Emma? She had secured primary custody of her children without a fight. Our quiet little alliance had delivered a blow that neither of them saw coming. And the best part? I hadn't screamed. I hadn't begged. I hadn't even raised my voice. Because sometimes the loudest revenge is silence paired with precision. Amanda thought she was irreplaceable. Turns out, she was just temporary. A week passed. Amanda didn't come back. No more unannounced visits. No late-night texts. No crocodile tears about the kids. It was like she'd finally understood she wasn't welcome, and she wasn't in control anymore. The silence wasn't just peaceful. It was liberating. I was reclaiming my life piece by piece. Morning runs without checking my phone for her passive-aggressive messages. Dinners with the kids where we laughed freely, not tiptoeing around her moods. Nights spent sleeping through instead of staring at the ceiling wondering where she was. The ghost of Amanda lingered, but the woman herself had become irrelevant. Until one morning, Ava came into my room holding a phone. Mommy sent me this, she said, eyes confused. It was a video. Amanda sitting on a hotel bed, fake tears rolling down her cheeks. Hi, sweetheart. Mommy just wants you to know that sometimes adults make choices they regret. I love you so much, and I'm sorry if Daddy says anything bad about me. My chest tightened. Manipulation. Even now, she was twisting the narrative, planting seeds to poison our kids' minds. She didn't know how to love without control. I crouched down, looked Ava in the eye. You know I'll always tell you the truth, right? I said. She nodded. Mommy and Daddy are going to live separately now. That's not your fault. And no one is going to say bad things about the other. We'll just say the truth. Is she mad at you? Ava asked. I smiled sadly. I think Mommy's mad at a lot of things. But you don't need to worry about that. That night, I called my lawyer. We need to file an emergency order. She's trying to manipulate the kids emotionally. He agreed. The next day, we submitted the motion, including the video. Amanda showed up at the hearing wearing white. White. Like she was the victim. Like she was the grieving widow of a marriage she stabbed to death herself. Her lawyer tried to paint her as misunderstood, emotional, overwhelmed by work and stress. Mine laid out the evidence, dates, affairs, financial deception, the video she sent to Ava. The judge looked unimpressed by her performance. Amanda broke down, finally. She cried. Real tears this time. Not for me. Not for the kids. For herself. Because she realized the show was over, and the audience wasn't clapping. Later that evening, I got another text from Emma. Emma, they're both officially blacklisted. No agency wants to touch them. Karma did her job. I poured myself a drink, stepped onto the porch, and took a breath. The kind of breath you forget how to take when you're stuck in a constant fog of lies and confusion. And then the call came. Blocked number. I answered. I shouldn't have. Her voice. Mark. I don't have anyone left. I didn't say anything. I'm not asking to come back. I never thought you'd stop loving me. That hit harder than I expected. Because there was a time I thought the same thing. I cleared my throat. I didn't stop loving you, Amanda. I stopped loving what you became. Click. She hung up. And that was the final goodbye. Not explosive. Not dramatic. Just a whisper between two people who had burned the bridge and stood on opposite shores of a river full of ash. Now, the healing could start. Not the fairy tale kind. Not the magical fresh start. But the real kind. Brick by brick. Truth by truth. Amanda would go down in my story not as the woman I loved, but as the lesson I learned. And that was more powerful than any revenge. 6 months later, the dust finally settled. The divorce was finalized. Amanda got supervised visitation rights, only on weekends. She moved into a small apartment on the other side of town, somewhere cold and sterile, a far cry from the life she used to flaunt like a diamond-studded trophy. Daniel? He vanished. After his termination, his marriage imploded, and he left the state. Emma told me he tried to contact Amanda again, but she ghosted him. Apparently, betrayal is only sexy until the walls cave in. As for me, I didn't rebuild everything. Some things weren't worth saving. The house stayed the same, but the air felt cleaner. The silence was no longer heavy. The kids laughed louder. I laughed louder. We all did. Therapy helped. Not the kind where someone tells you everything happens for a reason. I didn't need cosmic excuses. I needed to understand why I tolerated so much for so long. I learned how I'd confused loyalty with self-destruction, how I thought being quiet made me strong. Turns out, strength is in the boundary. In walking away from someone who keeps stepping over you. One evening, Blake asked if he could sleep in my bed. Nightmares again? I asked. He nodded. It's always the same. Mommy leaves and doesn't come back. I pulled him close and whispered, sometimes people leave, buddy. But the ones who stay? They matter most. It wasn't about shielding him from pain. It was about helping him walk through it, knowing he wasn't alone. Ava was different. She asked questions Amanda never had the guts to answer. Why did Mommy lie? Why didn't she just say sorry? I didn't lie to her. I told her sometimes adults break. Sometimes they run. And sometimes they forget who's watching them fall apart. Ava looked me dead in the eyes and said, I think you're stronger than Mommy. That hit me. Not as a trophy. Not as revenge. But as proof that something good had survived the fire. Me. One day, while cleaning out the last of Amanda's junk, I found an old letter in a shoebox tucked behind her dresser. It was from our first anniversary. She wrote that I made her feel safe, like nothing could ever go wrong. She lied even back then. Because the moment things did go wrong, when life wasn't shiny or fun, she looked for the first escape hatch. She didn't fix. She fled. And she blamed me for not following. I didn't cry. I threw the letter in the fireplace and watched it curl into ash. Amanda wasn't a tragic hero. She wasn't a victim. She was a grown woman who made decisions, and when they caught up to her, she expected the world to play dumb. I didn't, and I never would again. If I could give advice to someone going through the same thing, it would be this. Don't wait for the screaming to start to realize the silence is already a betrayal. Don't let guilt keep you tethered to someone who uses your loyalty as leverage. And most importantly, document everything. The truth is a weapon when wielded with patience. You'll survive. But more than that, you'll evolve. Because after betrayal, you're not the same. You're smarter, sharper, and you stop mistaking crumbs for a feast. Amanda thought she was irreplaceable. But the truth? Peace replaced her. And it fit better than she ever did.